Navaditamastu ma vitvishavahayi. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So, Karl, you had a question.
No, it was not a question, and you made the summary. It was just that I wanted in the beginning saying there are no different paths. There's yoga, shastra preparation, and there's Brahmavida, that's all.
Exactly.
No different paths.
Exactly. So that's clear now.
Yeah.
Yuta, you had a question? No. Okay. So now, here he's saying that now the purpose of the Veda is to keep you, to put you in touch with this Purusha, knowing which Purusha, which is your real Atma, knowing which, what, Tameva viditva, Mrityum, exactly. So that means you will cross the Mrityu. So that means here the moksha is the end of Upanishads. Yeah. So that is the vision of Upanishads. And then it says that now, see, this is something which is very important. I understand my Atma, but is there anything other than that in the universe? So that means you also have to say, in the next verse it says, there is nothing else other than that Atma in the universe. So here he says, Yasmat param na paramasti kinchit yasmat naniyo najjayo hosti kaschita vruksha iva stabdo divitishtatye idam purnam purushena sarvam. So this is, it's very interesting. These are the mantras we were chanting in the temple every day. So this is actually just explaining the vision of Vedanta. So this consciousness which is available in your heart, which is what a self-evident I, is not just one entity which is separate, totally separate from your body and mind. It says it is something which is what the Adhisthana, the Jagat Karanam Brahma. Jagat Karanam Brahma is a big statement that you have to understand. It's not a matter of just saying, oh, I'm not the body, and let me find out something which is independent of everything and just hold on to that. That is not. It is Jagat Karanam Brahma. What does it mean? From which has come the whole universe. From which has come about even the all knowledge and all intelligence which has brought about what? The manifestation of not only this form, but all the forms of the universe. So this is what one has to understand. In order to understand that, you essentially have to inquire into the nature of the universe, and you need to find what? This awareness. And you also need to inquire into the cause of the universe, and you also have to find what? This awareness. Only then you can say, this awareness which is in my buddhi is Jagat Karanam. Otherwise you can't make that statement. So an enlightened wave cannot just look at my truth is water. That will give a very partial knowledge. And the enlightened wave has to look at the all other waves and also say what? The truth of all the waves is also water. Then there is an ocean, and the truth of that ocean is also water. Then only the self-evident I, which is water, becomes what? The cause of the whole ocean world. Otherwise, it is hanging in the air. That water that you discover you are is hanging in the air. So this is why, if you want to arrive at that fact that what is available in my buddhi is not just limited to me, but it is the truth of everything. You have to examine everything and find the same thing. This is the method. So here he says, what yasmat param na paramasti kinchit. There is nothing other than that. There is nothing which is higher than that. What I find in my, it is even because you can say, is it higher than, is Ishvara higher than this awareness, or awareness is higher than Ishvara? That also can be a question. There is no higher.
So same.
So exactly. So that means there is awareness is the ultimate. Awareness is the end where everything ends. So this is where one needs to understand. See, because the Carl's example that you say that now let's take science perspective, and you say, okay, now this conscious, they call it epiphenomena. Epiphenomena means consciousness is a product. When all these neurons come together, then they produce consciousness. This was a belief of science for a very long time. So that means it's still. Yeah. But now there are a lot of this quantum physics and all. They said the observer.
But
now
still
there's still So
there is a small shift there.
There's a small shift, but you are right. It is still the mainstream.
It's not mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. It is the mainstream. Yeah, the mainstream is that consciousness is a product. Now you postulate that. If you postulate that, then okay, consciousness has come from as a coming together of some neurons, right? So what brought those neurons together in an intelligent manner?
And who produce neurons?
So that means there has to be an entity, because it's so intelligently put together. Now that entity, if you say it's Ishvara, then can something, if Ishvara doesn't have consciousness, can it bring something together without awareness? If something has no awareness, then without that cannot. If something is not intelligent, it is like saying that this watch was made because somehow some wires started flying and just got here, and this started flying. The chip started flying and got here. And in fact, so that means that whenever there is a design, there is an intelligence there. So that means that even if I see this consciousness as a product, then who created this? And if you think that there is something which is inert, that inert thing cannot create something, So you have to see that there is a presence of intelligence. And wherever intelligence is, it cannot exist without consciousness. So you use these arguments to counter the arguments that other schools of thought have. Everything will fall apart. All the logics will fall apart. And everything will be hanging in the air. This is that's how science is. Everything is hanging in the air. They have no answers to anything. Because they start with only things that they can see, and there are two things that you can't see, and that is what? Ishvara and the truth of Ishvara. So therefore, you are always stuck. Because the pramana, this is why pramana pravritti is so important. That you use your perception and inference, you can actually never arrive at it, because it's not available for your perception or perception-based inference. And because otherwise, if you could do it scientifically, Vedanta would be redundant. But because it is not within the scope of science, therefore Vedanta has a value. Otherwise, why would you use Vedanta if you can use science? And the thing is, but then you can say that if what Vedanta is saying is an independent means of knowledge, then anything I can say and I say, oh, it's an independent means of knowledge. So that means, in order for it to be a valid knowledge, it has to, can never be contradicted by logic. So that means, you postulate something else and everything will fall apart. How can an inert Ishvara who is not conscious produce neurons? You'll get into problem there. Or you can't say neurons came from nothing. Something cannot come from nothing. You get into series of logical flaws. You have to see that. And Ishvara is intelligence, but how can there be intelligence without presence of consciousness? Everything. So that means if consciousness is already there, which is resting on Ishvara, how can you say that this consciousness is a product? It's already there. So that means you have to challenge your own buddhi. You postulate, this is how you make this knowledge your own knowledge. Otherwise it will always remain, yeah, somebody is saying it and I am just kind of believing it. When these kind of questions arise in your mind, the only way to actually work towards clarity is you postulate. You postulate and you see that every position that you have, which is not the position of Vedanta, will get you stuck in that position. So many illogical things, so many unexplained things, so many things which cannot be reconciled. So this is how the vision of Upanishad is made into our vision. So, is it clear? Yeah. The whole the process of the series of logic that you use to arrive at it, one has to be sharp in applying it. So that is how one has to do it. Yeah. So here he says that there is nothing higher than that. So that means the whole world is, even though it is mithya, you can't just dismiss it as mithya. This is the mistake that people do. Mithya means it doesn't deserve my attention. You just skip over it. Actually, in mithya is the whole method of arriving at the limitlessness. Because mithya is arranged in a manner that it indicates satyam. And you have to use mithya to arrive at satyam. If you try to ignore mithya because it is not the satyam, you will never get to satyam. So that means in mithya world, we understand satya-mithya relationship. If there was no world with a table and wood, I will not be able to understand what satya-mithya relationship. Because I will say, yeah, the whole world is mithya and then there is some satyam. So some satyam is inaccessible. But because in mithya, there is that relationship is there, I can understand. That relative relationship between table and wood exists where? In Satya? No, in Mithya world. So you have to use Mithya world very intelligently because Mithya world fools us. It makes us conclude something else. Now the same Mithya world we have to use intelligently with the help of Pramana to arrive at what? The truth. You have to use it. You can't skip it. All the logics are within, all the examples are within Mithya world alone. Rope, snake, pot and clay, table and wood. These all exist within Mithya. Every relationship we first see it within Mithya world, then we apply it to what? Yeah. Even wave, water and the ocean example is not the reality. It is within Mithya world alone. So that means you can't just say, oh, let me not pay attention to Mithya, let me just go straight to Satyam. You can't say that because Mithya world has a key to Satyam. You need to, all the avasthatraya. What is avasthatraya? 3 states of experience that we have. In Mithya world we have or in Satyam we have? In Mithya world we have 3 experiences. And we are used generally because we have that experience, we conclude I am the waker. The same mithya world experience is given to me by Shastra to show me you are not the waker. Why? Because if waker was your intrinsic nature, then you can't ever give it up. The very fact that when you go to sleep, the waker, the entity waker, is completely shut off means it's not your intrinsic nature. Logics are used within mithya world. Your experiences of mithya world give you wrong conclusion. The mithya world experiences are used by Shastra to tell you what the reality is, using logic. So that means skipping mithya is the biggest mistake that you will make. So that means you need steps and you need to use everything to what? Arrive at the truth. So this is how, here, then what you arrive at is what? Yasmat param na aparam asti kinchita. When you finally arrive at Sat Chit Ananda, it is the causeless cause. There is no further behind it. See, generally what happens, we see a series of what? Cause and effect. So we start with table, we arrive at wood. Then wood itself becomes an effect. And then what? Atom is the cause. Then atom itself is an effect, particle is the cause. Particle itself becomes an effect and then quark is the cause. Quark itself becomes an effect and ultimately what Upanishad says, all knowledge and all power is the cause. Then all knowledge and all power itself depends upon what? Satyam, Jnanam, Ananda. So that means you go from cause within cause within cause within cause. From table you can't arrive at Satyam, Jnanam, Ananda. You have to go through these steps. And then when you arrive at Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, then you ask what is beyond that. That is what we call the causeless cause. There is nothing beyond that. Otherwise what happens is, now you postulate the other way. That's how the logic is used. Let's say there was something else which was more fundamental than Brahman. Awareness. Then what will happen is, you have to first say what? Because now you don't have time with you, you don't have space with you, you don't have objects with you of the past, present and future that you can say is the cause. Because that is said as effect. You have also, all these have come from intelligence, so that means now intelligence has become cause, but awareness is more fundamental than intelligence. So you also don't have intelligence as the cause. So what else is remaining? Tell me. Is there anything which else can remain? Tell me. You can say objects that are unknown to me. Objects which are unknown to you are within time and space.
Then they are objects.
Then they are. It is a causeless cause. Now, the other way you can say that now still you postulate that there is something else, then there is something else, then there is something else. You will enter into infinite regression. Infinite regression means that you can't collapse this moment. The very fact that this moment is there has to be one cause. And everything else is subsequent causes. Infinite regression means you can't have any given thing. That is the meaning of infinite regression. You can't collapse anything.
The fact that awareness doesn't have an attribute or anything sticking to it, you can't create a cause below it.
Absolutely.
It stops there.
Excellent. It stops there.
And I think
And because it is attribute-less, only then it can as though appear as all attributes. Every logic is totally perfect logic. There is no hole in the logic. Any other way you look, you will fall into there. You can't proceed. This is how. This is how you strengthen your knowledge. You take different positions and you see, first you understand what Upanishad is saying, then you take different positions.
And try to contradict.
and you try to contradict. This is how your knowledge becomes deeper. So this is what, there is nothing more than that. There is nothing which is it's a causeless cause. Yeah. Then, and what is the nature of that cause? Does the cause, now this is the thing, the question, this is a very important thing. The question, why did this awareness make the world? This implies that awareness, you are giving it an attribute of what? Karta. That means you have not understood the nature of awareness. Vruksha iva stabdaha. Vruksha iva stabdaha means what? It is not doing any activity.
Akarta.
Exactly. Completely attributeless. So that means in the question that you ask, you show you haven't understood the nature of reality. Without undergoing any change whatsoever. Vruksha iva stabdaha. Diviteshtate. And still as though becomes many. You, just like you, without really turning into dream time, dream space, dream characters, you have brought about what? Dream time, dream space, dream characters. Not 1 ounce of you is affected by whatever is going on in the dream world. So that means, this is why we have 2 karanas. You have to come back to whole, everything that is taught, you have to bring it back. Because now it is reconciling everything and making sure that what Upanishads are trying to tell us, we get it right. So now we talked about Vivarta Upadana Karanam and Parinami Upadana Karanam. So these are 2 kinds of material causes. There are 2 kinds of material causes. What is Parinami Upadana Karanam? So that means the cause undergoes a change to become the effect. That is called Parinami Upadana Karanam. What is Vivarta Upadana Karanam? A cause without undergoing any change becomes an effect. So, what is an example? The example of Parinami Upadana Karanam is yogurt, milk. Milk, then, which is what? A cause, actually undergoes a change to become effect, which is curd. This is called Parinami Upadana Karanam. The cause is undergoing a change to become a new product altogether. So, if that was the case for Brahman, now, so once yogurt is made, do you find curd? Do you find milk? No, you can't find it. It has already undergone a change to become yogurt. So if awareness had undergone a change to become the world, now you won't find awareness. Because it's gone to become the world. You find it totally intact. Where? In your buddhi. So that means that the awareness is not Parinami Upadana Karana. Because you still find it intact in the universe. If it was Parinami Upadana Karana, you should not, it's already changed into space, into whatever, and you won't find awareness anymore. Now, what is the example of Vivarta Upadana Karanam? The example of Vivarta Upadana Karanam is, the common example that is used is rope snake. So now, there is a rope, but you see it as what? Snake. Has the rope undergone any change to become snake? No. You only perceive it like that. So this is exactly the nature of the Brahman. The rope has as though become snake.
Even water is a good
without
example.
undergoing any change. And that
Water
is
like a
also
waterfall or a pond or an
exactly.
ocean.
Absolutely.
Water has
Without undergoing any change. The clay pot also, without undergoing any change, it has become pot. So that means there are many examples. The cause, when it does not undergo change, then it is only what? What? Only an appearance. Then, once you understand that it is an appearance, you can't ask a question why it has become like that. I will say, it has never become like that. It appears to be like that. In your question is non-understanding. Oh yeah, there is only, many people tell me, oh there is only, Vedanta answers all questions, but it doesn't answer one question. Why did this awareness create the universe? I said, you haven't understood what Vedanta is saying. It says, there is no creation, there is only as though. You look into anything of creation and you will find Vastu, unchanging Vastu. You can't ask the thing why this unchanging Vastu has made, because there is no real making. There is no intention. That one unchanging thing appears to be changing.
But you can ask, why does this appear like many?
So that means that there are eyes and they see the forms and it appears. So this is how. So that means, but there is no change which has taken place. So there is no intention. Because there is no intention, you can't ask why that person or that entity did it. Because there is no intention, there is no change on part of that entity. So this appearance is appearance.
Can you repeat the name? This one is milk to yogurt is Karinama Upadanam. And
Parinami Upadana Karanam.
Parinami.
Parinami Upadana Karanam. And the other one is Vivarta Upadana Karanam.
Can we say what, like just to read, kind of say what you're saying, that it is actually, there's nothing, it is, the Brahman doesn't change. The potential to change is what you're observing as the form, and that is the what we define as Ishvara.
Exactly. Without undergoing any change, it has a potential to appear as many, and that as forms. So that potential we attribute to Maya, and when it actually appears as many, we call it Ishvara.
Very intelligently, Ishvara, Maya and awareness were formed by Vedanta. Like this is a Vedanta logic.
It's
So
impeccable.
You can't catch from
You
anywhere.
can't catch from anywhere. Exactly. The
Initially I
more
used to-
logical mind you have, you
Yeah.
see it that you can't catch it from anywhere. And in fact, when you see that, you cease to ask questions because you see clearly.
And you stop catching it with the first.
And then you go, exactly, you stop catching it. You try to understand it. That is how it is. You stop the attempt of catching it. But in the understanding itself, the part of the understanding is that you have to postulate something which is not this, and you have to see the flaws. That will strengthen
Sure.
your understanding.
That is why I think all the Upanishads.
That's
go in
why
different
the
directions.
Upanishads, exactly. They make, even if you don't have questions, Upanishads will ask you questions. And then they will answer those questions. To make you see with clarity what it has to say. So therefore, this is Yasmat Param Na. Okay, so it is Vriksha Iva Stabda. So a very simple example that our teacher used to also, he used to use this thing of Vriksha. Vriksha is a tree, to demonstrate dharma. He used to say that Ishvara is in form of dharma, but you can't then say, oh, Ishvara is doing all these things to me. So that means he used to use the example of a tree, and he used to say that now imagine the tree is standing and you go and you rub against the tree. So you ask the tree, did you do it? And the tree will say what? It won't answer. It won't answer. The tree can have two answers. The tree can have both, and both answers are right. The tree can say, yes, I did it. Because if there was no tree, you will not get hurt. Then, if you start blaming the tree and say, you are so mean, you did it to me, then tree will say, I didn't come chasing after you. I'm standing where I'm standing, not doing anything. You chose to rub against me and you got rubbed in the process. So that means that the tree has done it from one standpoint and has never done it from another standpoint.
Cause and effect
It's like
is
that.
there. The free will also is there.
Exactly. So ultimately, you can ask Brahman. There is no question. There is no entering in conversation with Brahman. That is the reality. That's why this question of why we did it, there is no question. The questions only happen within time, space, and among people. That you have to understand. And Ishvara is what? Which creates time, which creates space, and creates entities which ask questions.
And also creates the potential for ignorance and arguments.
Exactly. Absolutely. It's a platform where everything takes place. And you use your own buddhi till the time that you use your own buddhi. Let you use it. Like a mouse keeps on riding over the lion and starts thinking, I know it all, or I can know it all. The minute you realize, hey, I'm getting nowhere, let me find out a little bit more, then Ishvara kicks in, uses Upanishads and uses teachers to make you see the reality. Books and the people who have keys to the books. And you have to use it to see the true nature of Ishvara and to see true nature of yourself. When you see it, there are no more questions. Because there is a total clarity of what's happening. On one hand, the whole show is happening. On the other hand, nothing is happening. True. This is the reality. So that is how it is. So here it says that this Purusha is Vriksha iva stabda. It's never undergone any change, but at the same time, without undergoing any change, it fills everything. Anything that is there cannot exist without it. So now, the next verse, it says, Angushtha matra purushaha antaratma sada jananam hridaye sannimishtaha hrida manisha manasa abhikluptaha yaha etat viduhu amrutaha te bhavanti. Okay? So, here...
Why did you chant the other two nicely and third?
Yeah, we said we chanted it really nicely because we chant it in the temple.
So we know them.
So we know these. We know these
know
chants.
Sounded really nice.
Nice.
There are some other which are coming.
Yeah. Let me chant. But the other ones we don't know how to chant because we don't chant them in the temple, but these we chant in the temple. So, Angushtha matra purushaha antaratma sada jananam. So that means, see, the whole thing is, it keeps moving back and forth. It wants to see, makes you see that it is everywhere. But everywhere means it's not, everywhere means we keep me here and then everywhere.
From reference to?
Reference to me, and then it's everywhere. So it wants to you to give up that orientation. Everywhere means what?
Including.
Including, exactly. including you. So that means, so if it is pervading you, you should be able to find it or not? You should be able to find it. Where will you find it? In your buddhi as I. So buddhi is the place where all knowledge takes place. There is no, people say, oh yeah, this in Turiya, so what, when you have to know Turiya, your buddhi won't work. This is why they say, no, then you just meditate and then somehow something will happen and you will come to know it. Because your buddhi is limited. How can a limited buddhi know limitless? This is another question that many people ask, and it's true, it sounds logical. That how can a limited buddhi know limitless? If the buddhi had to produce limitless, it is not possible. But if already there is limitless, buddhi can what? And there is nothing to be produced, the mind can reach a reality. That is how a human mind is programmed. It's already there. Right? Only the mind is capable of what? Lifting ignorance. That is what it is capable of. It cannot produce infinity, but it can know infinity because infinity is already there. It can just lift one's wings. Now, what is the method? Now people who are a little smarter, they ask even one more intelligent question. They said, okay, so now you are telling me that Upanishad is giving knowledge of Brahman. What is Upanishad doing? They said, okay, now using words. The words have limited meaning. How can limited words give vision of limitless? These are people who are not going to just swallow what you say.
Right question.
Right questions. And that's why most of the time people ask silly questions. Upanishads ask intelligent questions. They make you ask intelligent questions. They only raise these questions. We don't raise these questions because our mind doesn't reach there. They raise these questions. How can a limited word give knowledge of limitless? So then, there is an answer. There has to be answer to everything. Otherwise, it's not pramana. So, the thing is, the mind has to be used, right? The limitless awareness is the truth of the mind. And we are used to using the mind to know things. When we use the mind to know things of the world, the things of the world are limited or limitless? Limited. So the language that we have to communicate our knowledge is also limited or limitless? Limited. The words, their meanings are limited. Now, if there is no other entity than mind where the knowledge can take place. Knowledge cannot take place in hand, knowledge cannot take place in leg, knowledge only can take place in the mind. This is why human birth is considered to be a very valuable birth because you are given a mind which can solve problems, which can know, which can use logic, which can actually figure out many things. That's why human birth is a privileged birth because the mind is extraordinary in its capabilities. Now, you have to use the mind. Now, if you use the words which are other than what are commonly used in the language, will the mind be able to understand? No. It's impossible.
Some Russian.
Exactly. So now imagine if your mind has not yet lifted the veil of ignorance of Russian. If somebody has lifted, that person can understand. But if your mind has not lifted the veil of ignorance of Russian and somebody is teaching you in Russian, what will you understand? Nothing. So that means that, but in fact, whether it is English or Sanskrit or German or whatever, Hindi or Gujarati, whatever, any language you have, it can only give you knowledge of what? Something that you can see. And what you can see is limited. So the words are limited. So that means when I say table, table is a limited entity, and the word table only has to convey what? One entity, which is one limited entity. It can't convey everything else. So the words are limited. Every word of every language is limited, because every knowledge that we have gathered is what? Through our perception and inference, which gives us knowledge of the world, and every object in the world is limited. So now, how are you going to use limited word to convey the limitless? If you don't use the word, familiar words, what, can mind understand anything? No. So you are constrained to use familiar words which have some meaning, but you still have to, using those words, you have to convey what? Limitlessness. There is a whole big discussion in Taittiriya Upanishad. How is it done? How is it possible? So they say something called, there is a lakshana. Lakshana means there are two kinds of things. One is what we call the vachyartha, and the other one is lakshyartha. We use the language in two ways. One is what we call the words, they give rise to the direct meaning. Sometimes we use the words to give indirect meaning, lakshya, intended meaning. So, there is an example that is given. Now, imagine that...
Which one is direct, you said? It's
Vachyartha. And the intended meaning sometimes, which is beyond the direct meaning, is what we call lakshyartha, the intended meaning. So a simple example, it starts with a simple example, then it makes it a little bit more sophisticated. This simple example is given, and now imagine, the Upanishads are all very sophisticated. So they give an example of a race course. Race course, you go with your friend and you tell your friend that your friend asks you, who are you betting on? So you said, yeah, I'm betting on the white, which is running. Now, when you say white, white is a color, does it run? So what is the direct meaning of the white running? Does it make sense? Exactly. So the literal meaning of white is what? White color. Now when you are saying white, the white that is running, you have what? You're using the word white, but what is the intended meaning? Tell me.
Horse.
Horse. You're using the word white, but through that word white, what are you conveying? Horse. One is called vachyartha, the other one is called what? Lakshyartha. The literal meaning of the word white is what? White. Here you are not using the word white as color white. You are using it to convey what?
Horse.
Horse.
So
But how can you convey? That's the thing. If you just out of context use white, then will you convey the meaning of a horse? No. So you have to, only in race course where there are many different horses and you want to convey one horse, then your usage of word white conveys what? The horse. You can't randomly use it. You have to use it what? At the right place, at the right time, to give in the right context. So this is what we call intended meaning. So there is one thing which is called vachyartha, The Vaichyartha of white is what? White, color, white. What is the intended meaning when you use it in a race course? Intended meaning is a horse. You used a word to convey something totally different. Now, Upanishads have to do the same thing, because the direct meaning of every word is going to be what? Limited. Direct meaning is going to be limited. It can't but be limited. So but if you don't use any words, then you can't communicate anything. If you use unknown words, you also can't communicate anything. So you're constrained to use limited words, but you have to use them to convey what? Limitless. So how do we do it? We do it very intelligently. That word, we have to use three things. What? Satya. Satya, existence. Generally, what is the direct meaning of the word existence? Tell me. Existence in time and space. Existence of a table, existence of a human being, existence of an animal. So that means, exactly. So the direct meaning of the word existence conveys what? Existence in time.